First of all, good afternoon, and thank y'all for being here. I want to first, thank the mayor and Chief Davis and her team, Colonel Shabazz. I want to also welcome y'all to the capital of Memphis, Raleigh, 38128, and you are in the right house right now, and so we appreciate y'all being here. But on a serious note, last summer, before I do that, but just better say this, the individuals that are here, of course, obviously Chief Davis, Colonel Shabazz, Mayor, obviously, Chief Buckner from the Sheriff's Department. I see Chief Crow back there, Councilwoman Barbara Cooper Sutton. Oh, there she is. Right. Darren Good, Valerie Matthews, Tamika Williams, the Joint Office of Neighborhood Safety, Forrest, what's your name? Edwards, Forrest Edwards. I apologize for that. Our whole team, our family. I see, Leon Jones, Lisa Franklin, and Willie Brooks is here, our register of deeds also, and my team at the office, Angelica and Josh. And so, let me say this. Let me start with this. Back in the summer, last summer, I received a phone call from a young lady who owns a daycare in the Yale Road area, and she had some concerns about activities that were happening next door to her daycare. And some of those activities included shooting, fights, drug sales, and then it got personal. Police were called, and the individuals that were perpetrating those crimes, they scattered, and then they ran through the daycare playground area and started stashing the drugs and the guns that were in the backpacks over her fence. That was the first call. And then she called me again, and they had moved the basketball goal next door to the check cashing place. And let me be clear about the address that I'm talking about, because I'm not going to hold back any punches on this today. 5125 Yale Road, Discount Tobacco. So 5125 Yale Road, Discount Tobacco, you are on notice, right? And because all of the criminal activity that's been emanating from that address has been problematic. And so let me finish this story. So they put a basketball goal next door to the check cashing place in that strip center, and then they started dumping tires and having car washes and selling drugs and gang initiations, things of that nature, between the daycare and the strip center. And so, I had all of the stuff, the dumping, the tires and stuff, and the basketball goals and all that stuff cleaned up and removed. And I never forget this, just a funny side note, y'all. I pulled up and I saw some guys with a Kroger basket pushing trash in that parking lot. And I pulled up and I had some words with them. I kind of cursed them out a little bit and said, what are you doing? And the person recognized me and he said, oh yeah, he called me the city council person. And I told him that was a demotion. But he told me, no, I'm cleaning up. I'm picking up trash and taking it over there to put in the trash. And of course I apologize for my words, but he's a business owner over there also. And then later he called me and said that, this business that's over here in, a few doors down from mine is, it's a lot of activity going on, gang activity, fights, shootings, this and so on and so forth. And they're wearing ski masks and they're carrying AR-15s past my business. My barbers see them carrying these AR-15s with these ski masks pulled down over their faces almost daily. And then there was a shooting, a shootout rather. Same address, 5125 Yale Road. I'm going to brand that address today. 5125 Yale Road, shootout. One group tried to steal the sneakers of another individual. That individual ran into that building, that store, Discount Tobacco on Yale Road, 5125 Yale Road, and a shootout ensued. One group was shooting at another individual, but the bigger group that was shooting at the other individual had a 10-year-old boy that was ducking behind the car with them as they were shooting and chasing this individual out onto Yale Road shooting. It's unacceptable. And so when that happened, the daycare, 9 parents came and pulled their kids from that daycare. You think about that, 9 times $300 per week. That's almost $3,000 per week lost in revenue, lost to that daycare. 2 employees were relieved of their duties because the revenue that supported their jobs is not coming in to that daycare anymore. And that daycare took an economic hit. But let's move further. What about the homeowners that live in that neighborhood and the hit that they are taking to their home values? All because of these actors that have not been put in check. And the business owners and the property owner that is allowing these activities to take place in their businesses. And before I get further into the mechanics of the bill, I want to add a real face, real life to this, right? Because I think it's important for us to understand the toll that this is taking on our communities. We see this in the media every single day. Shooting happened here, shooting happened there, shooting, kill, murder. But we hardly ever get to put a real face on and tie it to the story and how it's affecting them. I'm going to bring Kern Gamble up to the podium. Kern called me and was telling me he's a small business owner in that same area. He called me and told me that, my customers are afraid. My business is being affected. The one thing that really broke my heart was when he called me. He said, "Is there any money for business relocation?" And because some of these concerns were being brought to me before session, I begged him to just hold on. Please, just hold on. Let me get to session in January so I can work on this legislation to bring it forth. Ladies and gentlemen, Kern Gamble.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you all for being here today, and I thank Brother Antonio Parkinson for helping me out. I thank Colonel Shabazz for helping me out, and just trying to make a difference. Graduated from barber school in 1997. My dream was to own my own barbershop. God allowed it to happen for me. I've been in business 11 years now, and I'm fighting to stay in business. I done lost like 8 employees. I done lost hundreds of customers, just lost another barber. And just yesterday, the same thing happened again with the same group of boys. The same 10-year-old boy had a butcher knife this long. So what do you do? The ski masks and the assault rifles, they came pulled on my door at night. I had to call the police and I asked, "What, can I shoot through the door?" They said, "No, you can't do that." So how can I distinguish between a customer and a robber when they're wearing a ski mask and an assault rifle? It's a hard job. So I'm fighting to stay in business. I love my customers, but I lost them all. So I don't really know what to do. And I just hope there's some help out there to make a difference in this community.
These are real life stories. These are stories that are affecting communities. And we have another. Cynthia, you want to come up? Cynthia Smalls is the owner of Elite Child Care, and I don't want to be the person to tell her story. I want her to tell her story. Cynthia.
Good morning. Sorry for my attire. I just left work. But can you see me? I own the daycare next to the discount tobacco store that he's speaking of. I've been there 6 years. The first couple years, it was fine. It's been going down tremendously. Just yesterday, we had guns, children just running across the parking lot. You can see the guns that they have in their waistband. They're hiding behind my building. Like Antonio Parkinson said, I lost children. I had to lay off workers. This is affecting not only, me financially, this is affecting families. They have to relocate. They were hiding drugs on the playground. We do checks every morning because we have to make sure our children are safe. My main thing is, like I was telling Parkinson, something has to be done. We don't wanna relocate, we love Raleigh, but something has to be done to combat all of this crime. And it's the young people. Like, I don't know what we can do, to get them to deviate and do other things, you know, positive things. But as a business owner in that community, and I have little lives in my hand, it's my responsibility. So, no, we don't wanna relocate, we're in the process now of expanding. But now that I see that the work is being done to combat, and I see the patrol coming out, and they're making sure that that area over there is staying clear, I have a little hope. Because at first it was just going rampant until I reached out to Parkinson, and he was on top of it, and as well as Commissioner Caswell. So they stayed on top of it. MPD, we appreciate you all. We just won't change. I just wanna make sure my babies are safe, so that we don't lose money, and most importantly, we don't lose lives. So thank you.
Tell me about the day of the shootout real quick.
The day of the shootout, my children were scheduled to go outside at that very time. For some reason or another, we decided not to. And we thought it was fireworks because it was so many. And I was like, okay, let's just activate our safety plan. Took the children to the area, relocated them. And the parents were coming in, they were scared. Of course, I don't blame anyone for pulling their children. It's safety. Okay, so when they pulled the children out, like you said, I lost 9. I lost 2 workers, but that's scary. You know, if we had been out there, it was nothing for those bullets to fly over there in that playground area. And I just feel like that's my responsibility. It's gonna, even though, you know, I can't control what goes on over there, but I have to control what goes on my property. And so that was my responsibility. But it was scary, but we went to the Capitol, and we spoke about it, and I spoke to everyone about it, and finally we're seeing change, and I'm just grateful. So thank you all so much.
Okay, and one more, thank you, Cindy. One, I wanna bring Forrest up, to speak to this address, and we're gonna get into the mechanics of the legislation in regards to House Bill 1050.
Thank you. Good morning. In September of 2021, Daryl Jenkins was working at his job at the O'Reilly Auto Parts, which is adjacent to 5125 Yale Road. And Jenkins was taking the trash out during his duties at work when he fell victim to gunfire and was deceased on the scene as a result of gang and narcotics activity at that location. You're going to hear from Representative Parkinson about this new legislation that, had that been in effect at the time that this murder occurred, it would have established clear and concise guidelines on deeming a property a public nuisance. And this legislation will be monumental going forward to establish when a business is in violation and putting owners on notice that you have to do your part to be a responsible business owner in this community. Thank you.
So I wanted to lay out the case, you know, as to why, you know, we feel that this legislation, House Bill 1050, is going to be an incredible game changer for not only the city of Memphis, but the state of Tennessee as a whole. And I want to say this part before I get into the last thing on this. You know, one of my colleagues who I love, you know, she was a no vote on the bill, and I asked her why, you know, she voted no on the legislation, and she spoke to, you know, we got people out there that have businesses such as nightclubs and things of that nature, and you know, and every now and then you'll have, you know, some individual that is shooting on their parking lot, and my concern, her concern was, and it's fine. Her concern was it may cause, you know, their businesses to be shut down. My response was, why are they not shooting on the white clubs parking lots? You know, why are all the shootings happening in the black clubs parking lots? And then I asked this question also. I said, 50 years ago, you know, your grandmother purchased a home, and when she signed that paper for her first purchase, she had this feeling of happily ever after. And then you have these individuals that they move these places like 5125 Yale Road discount tobacco into these communities, and they start selling ski masks, and they start selling the AK-47 pendants and gang bandanas and gang colored items for this certain group of individuals, this certain target demographic market that they're selling to. And then you start having activities like what was happening at 5125 Yale Road. Everybody's gonna remember that address by the time this is over. And then those individuals that own those stores or those places, they leave our community and go and live in safer communities. And then I said that club owner that has, you know, these shootings on their parking lots and these different places, they get the bag and then they go to their gated communities and they live happily ever after. Meanwhile, your grandmother who purchased this property 50 years ago had the happily ever after feelings in her stomach when she purchased it, is now trapped in a home that has no value, or she's upside down in, because the values have gone down. And those businesses adjacent, such as an Elite Daycare or Kern's Barbershop, you know, their values go down. They lose values. They close up. But when it comes to business recruitment, how do we bring new businesses into our communities when we have businesses that are hubs for crime? And we all know where they are. We know which gas station we're not going to stop at. I can name one at Fraser Boulevard in Mountain Terrace right now, right? We know which ones they are. Ridgemont and New Allen. We know where they are. And so what this bill does is it streamlines and strengthens Tennessee's nuisance laws to hold irresponsible business owners accountable when their establishments become hubs for repeated criminal activity. This bill will establish a clear and legal threshold for a business, and it officially designates that business a nuisance due to ongoing criminal activity. It provides a structured enforcement process to stop businesses from enabling crime. It allows businesses and homeowners that are affected by the nuisance business to seek financial compensation, and I'm going to come back to that. That's important. And it reduces the strain on law enforcement and lowers taxpayer costs by addressing chronic crime locations. This is how this will work. So all of you businesses that are watching, you know who you are, you know what you're doing. This is how it's going to work. So you are being warned now, so maybe you can get it together so you won't be affected. A business is declared a nuisance if it has 3 or more separate criminal incidents, and these are arrests, warrants issued, citations within a 24-month period. These are not petty crimes. We're not talking about shoplifting. We're not talking about, you know, somebody loitering for them. Well, we might be talking about that, but we're talking about sexually related offenses, drug-related offenses, assaults or violent crimes, firearms-related crimes, property-related crimes, juvenile-related crimes, prostitution for you hourly motels. Prostitution. And after receiving, after those 3 arrests or incidents, after receiving official written notice from either the DA, the city attorney, or the county attorney, that individual, or that business, if there is one more infraction, they'll be seeing the plywood going up on their doors and windows, and they'll be brought to court. Now, they will have their due process. They will be able to go before the courts, make their case, and it's not just for those individuals that are operating the business, but it is for the property owner as well. And I think that's vitally important. Now, here's to me is what is the best part of this legislation to me. That's a great part because it'll streamline the process. But I took a term from the Texas abortion laws, and I said any homeowner or any business owner in that zip code now has cause to sue that business and receive statutory damages of between $1,000 and $50,000. Think about what I just said. Any in the zip code. So 5125 Yale is over here, but Scenic Hills also shares the same zip code. So Charlie Caswell, you can sue for damages in Scenic Hills based on what Discount Tobacco is possibly doing over there in their establishment. And so that's any. And so if you think about it, if you have 10 individuals that own businesses, Kern or Elite, and homeowners who's being affected, that's $500,000 possibly that business might have to pay to remedy the losses to either that homeowner's property or that business's business or even reputation to that community. If my relatives don't want to come see me because they are afraid to drive down Yale Road to get into my neighborhood, that is an issue, that is damage to me. And so these businesses will be able to seek those damages to their establishments and to those homeowners. And so with that, I will pause right there and I will bring up our wonderful mayor to come and say a couple words, and we'll get to the chief and everybody else.
All right, thank you, Representative. We really appreciate the work that you're doing for this community, and thank you for being a listener, for someone who listens to the constituents and turns it into action. We happened to have some conversations just last year where we brought together state legislators, law enforcement agencies from across this community, and we talked about what types of actions we could take to bring safety to this community, and this is born out of it. And so I really appreciate you for being proactive in ensuring that our community gets the safety that it deserves. Businesses in this community need to do business in the right way, and we need to make sure that we are protecting our residents. And I think it's really important that we are not harboring criminal activities. And so I'm proud to see this legislation moving forward. I think it's part of a multi-pronged strategy. And as I think about the last couple of weeks, we've seen far too much violence in our city. And it has been completely unacceptable, heartbreaking to see young people losing their lives senselessly. It makes absolutely no sense, and our officers are working incredibly hard around the clock. We have all types of initiatives and programs. We're talking about one today. We talked about the Downtown Command Center yesterday and highlighted new technology that's being installed all across this city, where we have 228 new intersection cameras, where if someone commits a crime, we're able to quickly identify who they are, where they are, and track them to their locations. And it's already reaping dividends. We captured some individuals that were responsible for some high-profile incidents as a result of the technology that's been installed. Our officers have been conducting Code Zero, where they have saturated areas where we've seen crime peaking in communities and precincts. It's the modern version of Blue Crush, which I know many people know and understand. We have a broad gun violence reduction strategy where we're mapping out criminal networks and people that have used guns in this community for the past 2 years. And we're concentrating our efforts on identifying specifically who those individuals are so we can bring the heat down on them, because we are not going to accept this anymore in our community. But I want to ask our community to also step up. As we talk about all of the work that our government officials can do, these young people is somebody's son, it's somebody's nephew, somebody's cousin, it's some OG in the neighborhood who know these young folks that need to be speaking some life into them and changing the course of their trajectory. For the parents, the guardians, if you see a young person walking out of your household with a hoodie on when it's hot outside, with a backpack on, and it's not a school day, you need to ask some questions. You need to check the backpack. We need everybody in our community to be a part of this solution. We cannot allow our young people to continue down this path. you doing that check is gonna save their life. Just yesterday, we lost 2 young men right outside of BTW. It's crazy. And our community cannot continue to go on this way. As mayor, as government officials, we're gonna do everything we can to make sure we're bringing all the heat that we can. But we need the community to step up and be a part of the solution. I wanna ask Chief Davis to come forward, and she'll talk about some of the strategies underway with MPD, but I want the takeaway to be that we're all in this together. This is no one person thing. Everybody has to be a part of changing the direction of this city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Parkinson, for convening us today, because the work that we are doing in the Memphis Police Department directly connects to businesses in our city, to this House bill that we hope that just continues to go through the Speaker's desk and gets approved, because the Memphis Police Department needs legislation that helps to untie our hands and get to the root causes of problems in our community. We have great businesses in the city of Memphis. However, the locations that were mentioned today, my staff and I have been to those locations personally to see exactly what type of activity is going on at these places. And it's not just that location here in Raleigh Frazier. There are locations like this all over the city that we need to address, because there's no sense in any business selling ski masks in July. There's no sense in any business selling ski masks in July, unless you have an overcoat that you're selling too. So ski masks and other criminal paraphernalia that's being sold, drug paraphernalia, it attracts a certain element in our businesses. We all know that. And we have had calls, one call after the next, where homicides and shootings are occurring at businesses and innocent people are being affected, like the child care center that we know about. And other businesses are being impacted by the gun violence that's in the area. Recently, the Memphis Police Department has responded to 28 homicides in the month of April. That's 28 people gone from my community. Some of it is gun violence, some of it is gang violence, some of it is domestic violence, but all of it is nonsense. All of it is nonsense. And so we're appealing to the community to help us. Parents, get your children.
Yeah.
That was the C.J. Davis that came out of me. Get your children. If you want life and if you love your children, help them stay alive by paying attention to them, just like the mayor said. Either they will die to gun violence or they will end their lives in jail. Either way around, we have a very, very catastrophic situation in our city that all of us need to be concerned about. But the Memphis Police Department and our law enforcement partners that stand here today, we can't do this by ourselves. We really can't. We have to get to the root causes of problems. Recently, we have executed over 1,900 felony warrants on individuals that have been committing violence in our city, because we created a fugitive unit to help augment the sheriff's department's efforts in apprehending violent felons. We've taken these individuals off the street, but as we can see, it's not enough. And it can't be just one-sided. We're also working with our federal partners. We're getting ready to take every case that we can to federal prosecution, because we want our citizens to be safe.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about one-time offenders or misdemeanors. I'm speaking of individuals that continue to commit gun violence in our city. It has to stop. So we've ramped up our fugitive unit, we've ramped up our homicide unit, We've ramped up our task forces, our specialized units in the Memphis Police Department, and we're augmenting all of that with federal agents, federal partners, local agencies, so that we can be laser focused on the individuals, not the communities. We don't want to cast a wide net on our community, but we're going after the individuals who are committing crimes in our city, those people who have been tagged as gang members and other, even domestic violence offenders who commit domestic violence assaults over and over again, victimizing members of our community. So I thank Representative Parkinson, the mayor, and all of the elected officials that are here today that continue to support the Memphis Police Department, that understand that legislation, gun legislation, nuisance business legislation helps us to address problems in a more sustainable way. So we thank you, we support you, and we appreciate this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
And I want to bring up our other law enforcement partner, Chief Anthony Buckner, Shelby County Sheriff's Department.
All right, well, good morning. Good morning. So Representative Parkinson, thank you again for your work on this particular bill. One thing that I can speak to is for the deputies who receive these types of complaints. For the sheriff's office, we literally have to take a deputy out of service and spend weeks piecing together a case to present to the district attorney's office when we have such complaints come into our office. And so it's a strain and it's frustrating because it's hours and hours and hours of time that's dedicated to an administrative duty. And so we appreciate the efforts. I think the community has called for action from all the people who are standing here behind me. And so thank you so much for this effort. And I just want to speak real quickly to the community in which we live. So right now, as I stand here, we have about 2,610 men at 201 Poplar. The jail is filling up quickly. There's very little space left. Our community have to change. We know the conditions of the jail are very difficult. And the more people we put in there, the more difficult it becomes to manage. And so we need all of our community to step up. As the mayor said, I'm 46 years old, but I had a mentor come in my life at 8 years old who is still in my life today. The power of one person can change the trajectory of a child. It is easier to build strong children than to repair a broken man. Oftentimes I have people say, well, Chief, where do I start? Start in your own home. Start with the folks upstairs in your house. Start with your own nieces and nephews. This is not hard, folks. We need each person to lock arms to come up with meaningful solutions. We can't arrest our way out of this problem. The jails only have so much space, you heard me mention just moments ago. But if each one of us own our own block, and not just a slogan, but meaningful, own our own block, own our own children, own our own family, we can turn this thing around. It is frustrating for our officers. It's frustrating. We're sitting around tables every week trying to piece together and come up with ideas on what can we do next. Well, let me say this to the community. The next thing you can do is save your own child. Thank you.
Before we open it up for questions and answers, is there are a couple of people or groups that I want to thank. Let me first thank the DA's conference, which is all of our DAs across the entire state of Tennessee. In particular, Mike Donovan, former DA in Tipton County, who is leading the DA's conference right now. And we sat down and he understood my idea. He understood that I wanted to streamline the nuisance business laws to make them move faster. And especially speaking to what Chief Buckner said, when they have to send someone in, it takes time. They want to send someone in for an underage buy, it takes time. They might not sell it to them on that day. And so you have to do it again or try something else. But when Ms. Smalls reached out and we got the DA on the phone and he said, you're going to have to be patient with this. I think you remember, Cynthia, he said you're going to have to be patient because it takes time to gather the evidence. But the Mike Donovan and DA's conference, they understood my will, they understood my pulse, they understood what I wanted, and I said, we need to be able to set a timeline, a period of time to where if certain acts happen, it automatically serves as the evidence that the DAs or the attorneys need to file that nuisance abatement charge. And that's what we came up with. Now, House Bill 1050 has passed in both the House and the Senate. It's on the governor's desk for signage. You know, he may have already signed it. I don't know if he signed it yet, but it's going to be signed, and it is the law. And here's something too that I think is vitally important: is this law will take place in July. I wanted these businesses to have an opportunity to clean their acts up, get their security and protocol and things in place to make their businesses safe for our communities and their customers. And so we're giving them a runway up until July to get their acts together. Even discount tobacco at 5125 Yale Road. And also one thing before this last thing is, you know, our colonel, absolutely, she does a wonderful job here. We truly appreciate and love her, and I want to thank our commissioner, school board commissioner Stephanie Love, and the city council and the county commission both passed resolutions supporting this legislation that was in the jacket and presented to the members of the General Assembly to show that we really, really, truly need this legislation. And we were able to get it passed. And so all of us are partners in this, and we want to see our communities thrive. And so again, thank you all. Truly appreciate you, Mayor. Everyone truly appreciate you. And now we'll open up for any questions.
I'm Martin Stone with Fox 13 News.
Yes, sir.
My question is, you guys mentioned it already, all the shootings this week in the Fraser area, capped off by the tragic murders of those 2 high school seniors yesterday. How important is it for the governor to sign this bill before summer comes and more kids are out of school?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We advocate for this bill. It's important, not just this bill, but other legislation that helps us keep our community safe. As I mentioned before, it's important for all law enforcement resources to be at the table and for our community to be involved as well. We are victim focused right now. Who is the next victim? Which business is the next victim? Because our businesses are victims too, as we heard from a businessman just now. We want his business to thrive. I'm thinking of how can we get more business over to his location, you know, so that people can feel safe, you know, going to cater to the businesses in our community without them shutting down. So this legislation is important, and it's important that it be signed, you know, as soon as possible, because we plan to use it as a tool in our toolkit to go after businesses that are ignoring what the community wants. Thank you.
What weapons were used in the shooting in South Memphis yesterday, and does the police department believe it was a targeted event?
Don't know, have not gotten details on the weapons. There were several different weapons on that scene, but we don't have that specific information right now. And there was a lot that's going on in that particular situation. It goes to some of the gang violence, and we believe that it was a targeted
Chief Davis, what would
incident.
it actually take to prevent the shooting crimes, especially when it comes to these young people?
It's gonna take more engagement. You know, young people live somewhere. When they're gone at 2 o'clock in the morning, someone knows that they're gone. When they show up in downtown and other places of the city at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, someone knows that. What we're trying to do is keep tragic scenes where parents are showing up after the fact. It's too late. After the fact. Save your children from gun violence. Yesterday's scene, the scenes that we've responded to see young people gone in our community unnecessarily. Our community members need to get involved. Parents need to be more responsible. Guardians need to be more responsible. Keep your kids alive. Keep your children out of jail.
Was
Let
this?
me hold on one second too. Let me say this. Let me say this too. Look, there's a different group of us that are Democrats in the Capitol that are done with the excuses. I'm over it. Look, you know, all of the, you know, well, you know, he this or she this, and that shit is a wrap. Seriously. And so, you know, when I listen to, you know, Miss Smalls and I listen to Kern and it's not just the victims of the shootings. These rippling effects of these situations, they have far bigger implications than just than the person that might have been killed on the scene. I'm working right now to bring a new restaurant to the Raleigh community. We are not going to have this as a hinder. It's affecting us economically. You know, we hear all the time about, you know, the individuals that own businesses, some of which are my friends on Beale Street, and their business is being affected by the stuff that's going on in the city. The tourism that really helps to drive our economy being affected. Those are jobs, just like the jobs that were lost at Elite Child Care. So there was a shooting. I want y'all to follow this timeline. There's a shooting. Elite Child Care loses 9 students or children out of the child care. Then 2 individuals who are relying on Elite Child Care to keep a roof over their head and to feed their children lose their jobs because of the economic hit to Elite Child Care. They lose their jobs, and then the effects happen in their household from the loss of their job. This is problematic, and it has such rippling effects that I and some of my other fellow Democrats, we are done with the excuses, and we are going to be pushing for legislation to eradicate this problem. I don't care whose son it is. Right. And like I said earlier, if they're not shooting at the white club, they shouldn't be shooting at the black club. Plain and simple.
Was this event yesterday in South Memphis related to the mass shooting in the north of the medical district this weekend?
It's too early for us to be able to connect those 2 shootings. Right now, we're looking at that shooting as an isolated incident.
Would that be the same as the incident in the park, Riverside Park, Tommy Park?
No, we haven't found a connection to those incidents as of yet. The city of Memphis has several gangs. We have somewhere upwards of 20 validated gangs in our city. And we are working to identify individuals who are participating in gang activity that hang out at locations like the stores that we just finished, talking about. But we're trying to address these problems from a myriad of directions, through legislation, through working with business owners. And as mentioned before, you can't sell paraphernalia that's used to commit a crime and not expect that paraphernalia not to be used against you as a business owner. You can go to other communities outside of minority communities. You won't see ski masks hanging in the businesses.
Thank you.
You just won't. So we are really trying to approach this from a common sense standpoint and really making a clarion call, not just to law enforcement, because we're not going to take responsibility for everything that's happening in Memphis. We don't have the resources to do that, but we're going to do everything that we can with the resources that we do have to do the work and get it done with the help of our community, with the help of the school system, with the help of businesses, with the help of our lawmakers, our elected officials, to change the trajectory that we're seeing right now. We had a good year last year. Crime is down in every other category, but violence is hard for anybody, any one person, any one entity to be able to intercept. We can't stop and frisk everybody in the city. We don't wanna stop and frisk everybody in the city, but parents can frisk their own children. When we find children or go in a house and a Draco is in the bed with the child, something is wrong with that.
Chief Davis,
All right, any last question? Okay.
Chief Davis, you mentioned taking more of these cases to federal court.
Yes.
Why is that?
Stiffer penalties, especially for serious violent offenders. And we're sending a message. People have a chance. There are all kinds of resources, the mayor's office, this administration, the county. We have resources to help people leave a life of crime. We have resources for parents to help their children go in another direction. But if they decide that they don't want to move in that direction, we're protecting the citizens of Memphis. We're going after you with a heavy hand, and we're going after you federally if we can, or through the state process, whatever it takes to stop the violence.
All right.
Thank you.
Last question.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
thank you. So, when this bill, if the bill is signed, what's the metric to measure success? How are you gonna know it's working?
We'll know it's working immediately because these crime hubs will be boarded up and shut down. And we know where they are. I'm telling you, we know where these spots are in our communities. But there was really never a tool that can expedite that process. And so as soon as we start seeing these crime hubs shut down and we start seeing more responsible businesses open up, that's our measurement. And let me say this last thing it says businesses on this bill today, but in January when I go back, I'm changing the word out, business, for residents. And so we're going after those houses. All right, thank you guys, appreciate you. Thank you. Great job.